All right, so welcome to today's Fireside Chats with Jesse. You've probably figured out by now I'm not Jesse. I'm Deb Reuben, and I'm joined today by Jesse Johnson, founder, host, and producer of the popular video show Fireside Chats with Jesse. So we're just going to have fun today. We're taking a different approach and we're just kind of flipping the script on this episode of Fireside Chats, and I'm guest hosting. And so I'm taking Jesse's seat, as you can see, and he's joining us from the TomorrowZone.
I am in the TomorrowZone. Check this out.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're going to have fun and make awesome happen today. So I'll just introduce myself briefly. You may have seen me around the industry over the years at in-person and virtual events. So I'm Deb Reuben, CEO and founder of TomorrowZone. So if we haven't already met, I would love to meet you. So reach out. I'm easy to find on LinkedIn. So I'm a technology strategy consultant. I've been serving our industry for quite a while. I have a background working for a lessor and then a software company in the industry. And I've been on my own for about 8 fun-filled years now. I've been really involved at an industry level at different events and volunteering and stuff. And that's actually how I met Jesse many years ago. We've been crossing paths for, over a decade, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
So I met you when you were working at OSG Billing back in the day. So,
yes.
Yeah, but we really just started to get to know each other better, I think, just since COVID, and actually have started to collaborate on a couple fun things within just the past year. So,
Yeah.
so how did this happen? So you and Lavonne Gordon and I were driving from Dedicated Commercial Recovery in Roseville over to Brits for your first ever Equipment Finance Cares event. And I think it was during that ride, I said, hey, wouldn't it be fun if I just interviewed you on your show? Because you're like interviewing all these other people, but we want to know all the juicy stuff about Jesse. and he was up for it. So here we are. So I'm going to introduce you like you introduce your guests. So here's a few things that you should know about Jesse. He's been kind of rocking the world lately. So these are just some juicy tidbits that I found. I was really stalking him online. And so, you can find his bio in several places online, but I don't think the internet can keep up with him because he is moving so fast. It must be all the Peloton you're doing. Because man, it's hard to keep up with you. So he was recently recognized by Monitor as one of the 40 under 40 equipment finance leaders. He's the vice president of sales and marketing at JDR Solutions, one of the service providers in our space. He's super involved in the equipment finance industry. And I think you currently serve on ELFA's service provider council.
I was
right?
on there, but then Doug was on there. So
okay.
I'm off that. I'm on the communications committee.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. He's always got something going on there. And despite, and he's been, past conference chair for NEFA, different committees, boards and stuff. But even beyond that, despite the pandemic, just in the past year and a half or so, it seems, you've launched several amazing and exciting initiatives from, founding and hosting and producing this show to founding the Equipment Finance Cares initiative, which we'll talk about in a bit, and serving in a marketing and strategy role for Paperclip Publishing. And most importantly, husband to a lovely and brilliant entrepreneur, Brooke Eisenhart, and father to 2 awesome kids, Jeremy 12, Rory 3. So I can't be the only one asking, how do you do it all?
That's a great question. And every time that Brooke and I sit down, she's an amazing woman, Deb, like yourself. She CEO of 2 different companies. And anytime I'm like, hey, have you thought about this? And we just kind of we look at each other and it's like they're kidding. And then it's like, no, they're not kidding. But I guess silver lining, I don't know if I like that word or not, with the pandemic is when you're not traveling and you're not wasting all that time in an airport, on an airplane, in a hotel, it just allowed for more strategic thinking in regards to, okay, what can I do to try to make a difference? Um, and that's kind of where some of these things came from. Where, you know, in the beginning of the pandemic, I was part of the leadership group, and we're just like, okay, guys, let's get together every other Thursday for a happy hour. And then I never used to turn on my camera beforehand. I was like, leave me alone. Like, I'm whatever, working from home, not in an office, just kind of leave me alone. And then it's like, okay, this is how sales are going to be moving forward, right? I need my camera on. I need to stand out from what the other business development people are doing, because, for some reason, maybe it's the gray hair. I know it blends perfectly with your TomorrowZone background. I am much better in person from a relationship building perspective than I am over the phone. It's just that personable approach to business. Customer centricity, I believe, is kind of the buzzword around it. But I'm a firm believer that you do what's right by customers, employees, it's going to come back to you. And how can you make a difference not being in front of people? And it was kind of one of these things where you turn on the camera and people are like, well, we really enjoy what you're doing. How do we get more of it? How do we spend more time? So, my previous organization, I was like, hey, I'd like to do this, but then, like bigger organizations, Deb, they wanted control. I don't like being told what to do. Let's face it. Like, no,
I'm there with you. Bit of a maverick.
It's kind of like, nah, this is kind of my thing. I'm going to have fun with it started off with just friends in the industry where it's like, hey, can we just kind of talk a little bit, and I'm going to record it. Let me know what you think. And next thing you know, I think this is number 50, believe it or not, that we're going to be doing.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
So it's kind of one of those things where it just kind of took on a life of its own. It started off, I reached out to you. I mean, that's the good thing about this industry, is when you have friends like yourself that are like, yeah, I'll join you. People like Reed Reikovich, like certain individuals that you can have some fun with, and it starts an audience. I mean, what do the stats show? Podcasts take 12 months before they're actually relevant. So we're approaching that 12-month mark.
That's awesome. Yeah, you just got to get your reps in, and you've been really great at staying consistent, because a lot of these initiatives can die off just from inconsistency. So kudos to you. So, I mentioned, you're a family guy and you're like doing all this stuff, but you mentioned the importance of, being able to spend more time with family, especially when you're not traveling as much. So we were talking a little bit before this, and you have a son that's in baseball, and I was just curious, like, it seems like baseball is your sport. Did you play yourself?
I did. I mean, I played in Little League, and then I played through high school. I had some small offers to, some smaller schools in upstate New York, but I wanted to get away from my little town of Watkins Glen, New York, and go to a bigger school. And I enjoyed the sport. I think I enjoy coaching it more than I did playing it. Just because, that was a bond back in the day that I had with my dad. And, I got to be able, I was fortunate enough where I was able to help coach Jeremy's teams too.
That's so cool that you're like now using that as a way to bond with your own son these days. Yeah. So we were going to, like you do with your guests, we were going to talk about kind of your career journey, but I'm curious, we can take a lot from sport and apply that to our professional lives. So has there been anything from your experience, either coaching Little League or playing the game yourself, that you find yourself applying regularly in your professional journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think a good athletic reference is you're never going to bring your best self every day. You can try, but there's going to be some days where it's just not going to be there. You're going to be a Hall of Famer in baseball if you're successful 3 out of 10 times hitting the ball, and you need to forget fast in regards to when those trials and tribulations happen. You make an error, move on, right? things are going to happen. Life happens. Nothing is perfect. Take chances, take risks. And you can attribute that a lot to baseball. I mean, what, they basically play 9 months out of the year. So, they very have a little off season there. But yeah, I mean, and especially in selling. I mean, my first sales job that I had was with Yellow Book, and that's door to door, like businesses getting chased by dogs, trying to follow people that were before you that didn't know what they were doing and they did a bad job by the business. And then you have the opportunity to go in and mend that and do the right thing by the customer. So that was exciting. And then at OSG, kind of like, okay, kid, here you go. It was an IDS, a customer list from 2005. They're like, here's your list, call these people. And they're like, OSG, like the tax company? And I'm like, no, 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 no. We do invoicing. Well, we do our own invoicing. We don't need that. And so, that took me 7 months, Deb, at OSG to get my first deal.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. So you just have to keep swinging the bat.
exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome because, I love that line that you just said earlier. You got to forget fast. I think that really plays into the kind of the risk-taking mentality of innovators. And I've been watching you innovate and take these risks as you're trying these new initiatives, not knowing if they're going to succeed or not, but you just keep swinging the bat. So, it's really amazing to see that playing out in so many areas of your career right now. So, well, I mean, so let's talk a bit about your career journey. So if you connect the dots looking back, and I mean, this is something that one of the things I love that Steve Jobs said, it's easier to connect the dots in your life when you look back than, to try to figure out how things connect looking forward. But what were some of those key moments that kind of shaped who you are and where you are today?
My mentor at OSG is probably still the only sales mentor I've had. His name was Ron Whaley. Like, seeing his big personality, obviously, I mean, I'm not tall, I'm 5'10". Like, let's face it, that's not something I have going for me. But he's 6'3", just this ball of energy. But the way he treated his customers, Deb, and the way they flocked to him was like, okay, he's always that beacon. Everyone wants to be around him. He does the right thing. Now, from a sales perspective, he had some quirks, but we all do. That I call them Whaleyisms, and I'm sure he's going to watch this. And people who understand him know what they are. But he was just a great guy, and that was kind of like the first mentor that I had from a sales perspective. But to answer your question, connecting the dots to where I got today, I felt like in my first company, there was just this ceiling where you're just kind of limited in regards to potential and what you can do. And it's like, no, stay in your lane, go make cold calls, sell deals, but there's so much more. And then a similar situation in my previous organization where I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what the customers needed. I just wasn't given the runway to have any of my thoughts or considerations be heard. Now, while people say they understand, do they really? Do they really take your opinion into consideration? And with JDR, it is a complete breath of fresh air because Doug is like, okay, kid, run. I'm not kid, I'm 40 now, but he's like, Jesse, go do what you have to do. And they're seeing business that they've never seen before, Deb, because he's just letting me kind of just run, and always appreciated and everything else. And I don't know if that's a rambling answer, but yeah, I people just need to understand what their potential is and just not be hampered when other people say, no, you're not doing that, stay in your lane. No, I want to bring my real self every day. And
Yeah,
that's kind of what you're saying.
that's so important. And I think that's kind of a lesson for anybody who's in leadership and has awesome people working from them. You got to take the lid off so you can unleash that awesome in your
But it
people.
but it can be intimidating for some, because naturally those leaders that you're behind, you know, they don't want you to pass them. Right? So
Well, I think that's a mindset thing too, though, because, a great leader, shouldn't they want to surround themselves with people that could pass them up?
I would welcome that, because that means I'm getting challenged and there's just more
Yeah.
ideas and more everything else. But
Yeah.
let's face it, some people just get really protective, but regardless.
But then that's, the thing that we have to do as professionals is take ownership of our own career and make sure that we're in an environment where we can find that meaning and we can flourish and we can bring our whole self to what we're doing. I've been in that situation before with that lid, like, oh, you can't do what that customer's asking you for. We need to bring in someone for that. It's like, but they asked for me, and this could be a revenue stream for you. Sometimes you just have to leap into a new environment where you can bring it on and run.
Yep.
So that's, I think that's really exciting. And, you're bringing the magic to JDR in a pretty exciting way. I think it's interesting. You mentioned earlier the challenges around, wanting to be around people, but now we're in this environment where it's a little more difficult to do things the way that we used to. And, I've really been watching how you've not only been innovating, but you've been learning forward and thriving in the midst of this chaos. And, there's a lot of things that I've seen you accomplish over the past 19 months, but, the one I wanted to really zero in on first is the Equipment Finance Cares initiative. And I know you talk about it a lot, but I really wanted to kind of dive into like the heart of it. Like, what is that core vision that drives you to keep doing this and keep, swinging the bat, not knowing really what's going to happen?
No, and we actually are doing, Laverne and I did an interview, Laverne Gordon from Boston Financial, and I did an interview yesterday with, well, I guess by the time this airs, it probably will be live on Equipment Finance Advisor on the little top piece, where we were just kind of talking about the origin of this. And it started off with, Laverne, when Brooke was launching Paperclip. I'm like, I have an author. I'm like, I think she wants to be an author. She has a foundation. She's an amazing woman. I think she'd be a great first author for us, and she has an amazing story to tell. And I knew a little bit about what Laverne was going through, because at conferences she would always show up early, and she always goes to different shelters and everything. And I knew a little bit about Love Life Now, but not a lot. As we got into that book project, and as I was reading the stats, reading her domestic violence memoir, understanding where we were in a room with 10 people, Deb, and 9 out of those 10 people they were the statistic. And it's just like, holy cow. Like, how do we tell Laverne's story to, she's been in the industry since 99, 2005 here. So what is that? Almost 40 years plus of contacts that we both created. How do we get this out to the marketplace? And, there was a NIFA event that you were referring to earlier. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try doing Laverne's own event on the front side of that. And as I was talking to, it's a fun part about being in business development and equipment finance is the companies I worked for before. Thank you, OSG. Thank you, LTI. I had a pretty aggressive marketing budget where I could get in front of people, travel, wine and dine, understand what there is. So in the back of my mind, I knew you and I talked Technovation, Minnesota in the past. And then I knew Northland did something for, I think it was St. Teresa in Tanzania, where they send pods every year. A few other phone calls to some other organizations where I know Sean at Dedicated, they do a lot of giving back. Last couple months I was at LTI, we signed Honor Capital, and I know Brian had the Slipka Foundation. So there's these little things I had in the back of my mind where as I was promoting Laverne being there and just an event for Paperclip, all of a sudden it's like, well, okay, well, what else, Jesse, are we going to see besides Laverne? And then I reached out to you and I was like, what about we do some panels, some thought leadership panels? And you were generous enough to, to say, yeah. I think a little nervous at the time because I think the George Floyd sentencing stuff was going on, similar downtown Minneapolis. Let's face it, it was.
It was a little nutty here.
Yeah, it was. I don't even know what the word is, but it was challenging at the time, and you're like, yeah, let's. I think your exact words were, let's make awesome happen. And I found a location. I ended up putting like $8,000 on a credit card to cover everything. And then I'm like, all right, let's see if we can get some sponsors. Let's see what we can do here. And let's get our panelists together. And next thing you know, June 16th, at the end of that event, I think every single person that attended was just like, wow, that was amazing. We can't wait to get to the next one. And so, I mean, it started off with, I wanted to showcase Laverne's, book project, Love Life Now Foundation. But then again, I'm like, well, why should it just be about this? We have an industry where, people go out of their way to give back to their local communities. Let's showcase everyone, what everyone is doing. The challenging part is a lot of people don't want any they just do it because they're good people. They don't want the notoriety for doing it, and that's perfectly fine. But it wasn't just about what Laverne was doing. It's about we as an industry are doing to give back. And a lot of the stigma regarding like equipment finance people, oh, you're just a bunch of bankers who like to make money. And it's like, yes. Do we like to have nice things? Of course. However, this industry is great in the fact that people go out of their way to give back to their local and national communities. And that's what we're doing. And it's not just the foundations, it's some of the topics that we're bringing up at these events. That's one thing the fireside chats afford me the ability is I can ask people questions. Thought leaders are typically the people I'm looking at. It's like, how are hiring going? What's the supply chain? What's the credit box? Let's talk DEI if people are comfortable with that. It's not an easy conversation to have, but it's a conversation that needs to happen. These formats provide the safe space that we can have those, that we can build that awareness. We can, we can plant those seeds, because nothing's going to change overnight when it comes to domestic violence, when it comes to DEI, when it comes to everything. But if we can show people what they could be doing to make a difference, that's kind of our purpose there, Deb.
Well, I love, one of the things I love about what you're doing and what you just mentioned is creating that safe space for new kinds of conversation to happen, whether it's in the digital world, like what you're doing with your fireside chats, or in the physical world, where you're bringing to get people together in these small, intimate gatherings to have a new level of conversation. I think the common thread across all of it, no matter what the mode, you're really humanizing the industry and helping people to come together and rally around a cause that's bigger than just the mechanics of our business. And I think that's huge. So you mentioned, we're not going to change the world overnight in these different areas, but if we could just step away from day to day and into the tomorrow zone for just a moment.
Yeah.
If you had a magic wand and you could change anything about our industry, or even if you could cast a vision for what you'd like to see happen for equipment finance cares within the next 3 years, like what would that wildly successful outcome look like to you?
I mean, well, as I mentioned before, just the great things that people are doing, volunteering on boards of foundations, on charities, being aware of like you said, it's humanizing equipment finance. Where, when you walk up to somebody, it's just not a business conversation. It's like, how do you break that barrier and get to know someone's true self? And I think what this affords for that, where you sit there and it's like, wow, I had no idea what you were going through, and I think the pandemic kind of hopefully shifted that focus, where you had these older executives who were just like, what do you mean you can't get your technology to work at my office? And now it's like, dude, turn on your camera, like, understand that. And we haven't, let's face it, we're still in an hourglass industry. I mean, I think you and I are one of the few unicorns in there, where we got in a little bit younger and we're still in the middle of the hourglass. But let's face it, there's still a lot of people at the top. And, they're like, okay, how are we going to get the younger talent? And ETAC is doing a good job. ELFA is doing it. What I want to do with this particular initiative is bridge that gap, where you go from an hourglass to a cylinder, where you get people that are younger, that are coming up, that they would rather take lesser pay if they know that their work is going towards a purpose. And that's one of the things that we're looking to do over the next couple of years, is just spread awareness to, hey, yes, can you make good money in equipment finance? Absolutely. There's money to be made. But are we also doing our part to give back and make the world a better place? Eradicate domestic violence, help donate to all these different foundations to make a difference. It's one of the goals. Long-winded answer,
that.
Deb. Sorry.
I love it. I love it though. I mean, like, how can we make this industry magnetic? And if it makes a difference beyond just helping businesses get access to the equipment that they need, to make awesome happen in the way that they do, but how do you bring an even bigger meaning to it? I think that's an amazing vision. That's like something we're passionate about too in the TomorrowZone, is bringing people together from across the generations to collaborate on what could the future look like for this industry and beyond. I think that thought diversity and bringing people together from a whole bunch of different lenses makes such a difference in how we move forward.
No, absolutely. In the couple events that I've joined, for your Unconference Series, I like where it's thinking outside the box. It's like, hey, we don't need to get water cooler talk. Okay, let's break it down. Let's get into it. And what you're doing with your series is amazing, Deb, because it's not the traditional box, right? It's okay, what are we here to achieve? Have you thought about this? And this is what we're going to get. And they've been fantastic.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we have an exciting lineup that we're planning right now. We just came off of a mind-blowing 3-day event.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, it was like, sci-fi, but it's real. Our minds were just stretched. So, you mentioned the shift that has happened. And I wanted to kind of go back to that, because we've really been through that huge digital shift. And I think that, we've all had to kind of step back a little bit and reassess, like, what really matters and what am I really about? And moving forward, how do I live my life and my business in the most authentic and fulfilling way, and make, really every moment matter? I think a lot of people have had to come to that realization. I did a lot of soul searching as I was changing my business model, like you, as you were coming up with these ideas. So, but it's really hard to adapt to this new environment. And, I would love if you could share just some of the things that you have found that really work for you, because everything you do is about building relationship. But, the traditional approach is you're buying somebody a steak and you're sitting across the table from them. And it hasn't looked like that for a while. And, hopefully we'll get back to some of that. But what's working well for you that maybe people could try themselves?
No, I mean, it's back to square one. It's be memorable. You know, whenever you have an opportunity, whenever someone gives you a minute of their time, make sure that you're standing out. Be memorable. Remember something they said in a conversation regarding their wife, their kids, sport they like to play, and anything. And then the next time you have a conversation, when you bring it up, that is something that you remembered that another salesperson or business development person isn't going to do. Maximize whatever time you have with someone to stand out. Turn on your camera. Have fun. Don't be scripted. No one wants to hear from a script.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Fireside Chat Unscripted.
Yeah, right. But as far as where do we go from here, and I know we've spitballed this multiple times. From a sales perspective, traditionally, someone was a good lead that came in, they're about to do an RFP, we got to get in front of them. Okay, well, who's going? Me plus one. Okay, let's spend the $3,000, $5,000 to jump on planes, hotels, wine, dine, when you might not even have a good shot at getting the business because you don't really understand the true scope of the requirements. I think the 3 to 5 call, sales process, I think it's over. I think we've understand that we can get even more requirements done via interactive sessions like Zoom, Teams, and everything else. Where I still think you need to go on for like the finals, right? Because you get a good understanding, Deb, I think when you're in front of people, and at the end of the day, we are still a handshake industry. I still believe that. Maybe I'll be wrong. But I think those 3 to 5 call closes turn into one, at most 2, and you can get more people involved in the sales cycle. You can make more people, if you do it correctly, you can make more people inside your organization feel like they're a part of a process, as opposed to, well, why does the sales guy always get to do this? If I'm the one creating these schematics, these spreadsheets, if I'm configuring a system, why is the salesperson the only person that gets to go out and show off what amazing products we have?
I think, one of the things that you brought up, this is something I think about all the time. And I found this to be true in my business. Digital really is an accelerator.
Yeah.
Not only can you, if you use it right, you can accelerate authentic connection, human to human, even though you're digital. And there's nothing that replaces being together in person.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, scientific fact. We can't use all of our senses when we're doing this in the digital world. Right. But there's so much you can do, even with, some of the constraints that you have in the virtual world. And I love how it's not only an accelerator of processes, but it's also a multiplier, and it can level the playing field for radical inclusion that you couldn't have before, because a company can't afford to send all their people on that sales trip, right? No. Or to the event or whatever.
It's not realistic. And that's one of the things that I'm curious, and what I'm asking industry professionals now is, what do sales budgets look like for 2022 from a travel and entertainment perspective? I'm asking that because selfishly I want to know.
Yeah.
Right?
What are you finding?
People aren't giving me everything I want to know, because they're like, oh no, we plan on getting in front of our customers. The standard answer, it's almost like talking points in a political show, where it's like, oh, well, if our customers want to see us, then we'll go see them. If they don't feel comfortable, they don't. And the challenge I have with that is, you can't be memorable forever this way, right? Eventually people want that one-to-one touch. We're human. We like that one-to-one. We want to feel special. We want someone, whoa, you flew all the way to Idaho to come see my dealership. That's, people like that. And some people are going to hide behind the, well, we don't need to travel and everything else. And other people are going to say, hey, we're going to take a hybrid approach. Maybe we'll get in front of some of our customers. Maybe we won't if they don't want us to. And I don't know. It's kind of a weird because no one's really spilling the sauce.
Yeah. One way that I've been thinking about it is really what's changed isn't whether you should be in person or not, but it's my filter criteria for when it makes sense. Because if there is something that we can do, that we can move the ball and help a client get results, and we don't have to be in person, that's what we're going to do, because it's not about being there. It's about
saving that time.
And it's about achieving their objective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But then also, I'm very selective about the in-person, and I'm prioritizing building relationships with friends and family because I'm not traveling as much on business. And so now I have this new opportunity that I didn't before. So yeah, that's kind of my lens. So just for fun.
Sure.
Yeah. So this has nothing to do with equipment finance or anything, but you came to one of our Unconference events, and we did this whole experience about how music can kind of accelerate connection.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you a question around that.
Sure.
So what was your first or most memorable live music experience?
My first concert that I went to was Bush and Veruca Salt in Buffalo, New York, my junior year of high school. From a small town in upstate New York, we didn't really have big concerts like that, but that was quite an experience going to something
like a
that
first big outing.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, my first one was REM
at
the Met Center, which doesn't even exist anymore.
Right.
So I was going to ask you, I mean, you're all about connection, and you've been doing this show now for what, close to 50 episodes. Yeah. And we're gearing up to be in San Antonio for the first big industry shindig. So is there somebody in our industry that you would love to connect with at the upcoming convention or have on your show that you haven't been able to connect with yet?
And it's not because I haven't reached out to this individual. I have his email address, but Mike Jones from CIT is someone that I'm looking to get on there. I've heard that he is a steward of the industry, and he also gives back a lot to his local community. So,
awesome. Okay, so if you know Mike Jones, or you can influence that, let's get him on Jesse's show. All right. Or if you're listening, Mike Jones,
I'm just going to give Deb a hit list and just have you go. Be fantastic.
Yeah. Hey, we can connect in a lot of ways. So, anything else that you want to share with the audience before we jump to the lightning round?
No, Deb. I mean, it's just, don't be limited by, don't let whatever organizations you're working for limit your potential. Know what you're capable of and take a chance.
I love that. Yeah, take the limits off. All right, so here's the special TomorrowZone Fireside Chats with Jesse lightning round. So I'm just going to ask you a quick series of questions and top of mind answer. If you can't think of something, you can just pass. So
I'll just make sure I try to be as appropriate as possible.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what your rating is for this show, but yeah, let's keep it clean. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. So how many times have you been to the ELFA annual convention?
Everyone, well, except for last year, every single one. My first conference was Hurricane Wilma, when they had that hurricane, Hurricane Wilma in Boca.
Wow. All right. So lots. What's your go-to app on your smartphone these days?
I guess it depends on the time of day. Every morning I see how much I slept last night.
Oh, wow. You use a sleep app? That's awesome. So you're like a biohacker?
No, I just like to say, okay, I was good last night. I went to bed at 9. I
Wait, do
only
you
get
not
5
feel
hours of
rested?
sleep.
So you like you have to look at your phone to find out, did I actually sleep? Okay, that's awesome. The movie that always makes you laugh when you see it.
Oh God. Wow. There's so many of. I mean, I guess Caddyshack. Every time it's
That's a
on,
good
I just
one.
have to
Yeah.
watch it. I mean, I think that's safe.
Yeah, that's a good one. Napoleon Dynamite is my go-to. Or Nacho Libre. Either one of those. I'm
That's
always snort
great.
laughing every
Maybe
time.
just get some people to dress up like Nacho and just
Yeah, or we
do
could have
like
like a we could have like a
a
virtual
check.
watch party.
Or maybe we do that. So Laverne has a ball that she does.
Uh-huh.
Maybe we get some equipment finance guys to dress up like Nacho.
Like
I mean,
luchadors.
I'd probably fit the best profile, but I'm sure we could have some fun.
That would be so crazy. Crazy awesome. All right. A food that you never pass up.
Um, Chicken wings.
A food that you would never ask for.
Uni. It's kind of
What is
gross.
that?
It's a Japanese delicacy. It looks like a snot ball.
Okay, yeah.
And it has a consistency of what it looks like. So
Oh
we'll
my
just
gosh.
move on.
All right. Well, now we know. Where'd you go for your most awesome vacation memory?
Um, I would like to say probably Capri, Italy.
Oh, cool.
Was a great one. However, about 6 years ago, I ran with the Bulls in Pamplona. Um,
Oh my
so
gosh.
from an overall
Juicy things
fun
you didn't
fact
know about
perspective,
Jesse.
yeah, that was fun. I mean, you talk about not sleeping, where you sit there and it's like, oh, only one person from the U.S. has died during this event. It's like, dude, don't be number two.
Oh my
Don't be number
gosh.
two.
You really do take risks. We'll have to do a whole other show on that experience. Where's your next vacation getaway?
I'm taking the family on a cruise, fingers crossed, in March. I
Oh,
think yeah, either on the
wonderful.
front side of um, the round table, the exec round table. So
Very
we're going to the
cool.
Bahamas for 5 days.
Oh, that I hope that is amazing. So, so whenever you're facing a big challenge, personal or professional, what's a song that you go to when you need to get all amped up?
Um, I mean, you have to go back to Enter Sandman. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things that you sit there and just close your eyes and you hear the beat and it just jacks you up.
Awesome. What's the best career advice you ever received?
If the money wasn't there, would you still work there?
Oh, that's good. What's the worst career advice you ever received?
I brought you on to replace me.
Wait, okay. That's juicy. What is that? What's that all about?
We kind of got into a little bit earlier in regards to, and I'm excited to hear the speaker coming up at NIFA's event where it was like managing up. Oh no, that's
Oh yeah.
ELFA's managing up. It was kind of one of those things where
Okay.
it's like, well, eventually you're gonna, you know,
Mm-hmm. All right. Last question. This is a big one. So how many animals are living on your property right now that you know about?
wow. Well, I'm assuming my HOA won't find my YouTube channel. Let me see. We got 5 cats, 3 dogs, 8 chinchillas, maybe 50-ish ducks and chickens.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is even more than I imagined.
Yep.
Is there
And
more?
we live in a pecan grove, so there's like, birds all over the place.
Oh,
So
wow. Wow. Well, now you know all the juicy details about Jesse. Jesse, this was just really fun. Thank you so much for letting me hijack your show.
Deb, I always
It's been
enjoy
fun.
spending whatever time I can get with you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And I look forward to seeing you in San Antonio soon.
Couple weeks. By the time this airs, I'll see you in a week.
Awesome. All right. High
Thanks,
five
Deb.
you when I get there.
All right.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.